Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. We're going to talk about some of the injuries that the 49ers are dealing with coming out of the Bucs game. And for most of these guys, they were injuries coming into the game as well. But I want to give an update on what we heard from Kyle Shanahan as he spoke to reporters today. He gave a clear picture on several players. And I know that we had big questions about a guy like Renardo Green. And Renardo Green has been so good this year for the 49ers, especially over the last 2 weeks. He has been the number one defensive player, according to PFF, for the 49ers. It has been a key contributor, and this week was really huge. Charvarius Ward was out, of course, dealing with the loss of his daughter, which is just terrible. But Renardo Green stepped in and played well. And we got a situation where we got a couple of guys that really have stepped in and played well over the last couple of weeks, but Renardo Green left the game in the second half with a toe injury. And that always makes you think what is going to happen with the injury and how that's going to relate to him being able to play in the next game. And so we were looking and waiting for that update, and we got it from Kyle Shanahan. He said that the injury doesn't appear to be serious and that Renardo Green is day-to-day. And we always know that the designation day-to-day compared to week-to-week is such a huge thing for the 49ers and for any player that's dealing with injury. If you are day-to-day, you have a chance of playing in the game. If you are week-to-week, there's a likelihood that you're going to be out for a while. So the 49ers are going to be looking for Renardo Green to improve this week and potentially be able to play. And they could use him against the Seattle Seahawks because we don't know the status of Charvarius Ward yet. I'm going to talk about him in a second because Kyle Shanahan did talk about Charvarius Ward, but that's good news for the 49ers. The rookie's been playing so good, and he was a huge contributor the last time the 49ers played Seattle when he had a interception in the fourth quarter that clinched the game for the San Francisco 49ers. Shanahan also brought up the fact that George Kittle has experienced some hamstring irritation. He's going to be reevaluated on Wednesday, though Shanahan wasn't overly concerned. This one makes me a little bit more nervous because when you're dealing with hamstrings, they can go either way. And you're talking about hamstring irritation. We've seen these types of things linger. There were points in this game where you looked out on the field and you're wondering why George Kittle wasn't out there. You had Eric Saubert in his place. And so this is a little bit nerve-wracking because George Kittle has been such a huge part of this 49ers offense this season. He's an absolute red zone threat. He's the best tight end in football, and they need him out on the field. So this is going to be one to monitor this week, and hopefully he will be able to practice. I don't expect him to practice Wednesday, so I don't think that is going to be a signal whether he's going to be playing or not, because I expect them to rest him. I think as we get through the week, Thursday, Friday practice, Friday for sure. If George Kittle's out there, then there's a likelihood he'll play against Seattle. But this is something to watch and something to be concerned about. Even if Kyle Shanahan doesn't seem overly concerned, you just don't know how hamstrings are going to work. And so I'm hoping that Kyle Shanahan's lack of concern, or maybe moderate concern, will lead to him being able to play, because the 49ers definitely needs George Kittle in this football game. And that was one that I was definitely concerned about when I saw that Kyle Shanahan had said that. Now, additionally, punter Mitch Wisnowski had a back flare-up, and the team is exploring treatment options as they assess his condition over the next couple of days. This is something that Mitch Wisnowski struggled with before the season. During training camp, they had to bring in punters. They were constantly working out punters at training camp, and they had a pretty good one there for a little bit, right? And so this could be a situation where Mitch Wisnowski needs to be shut down. And if they have to shut Wisnowski down, I don't know if they're going to carry him on the 53-man roster. I don't think they really have the ability to carry an extra specialist with the way that this roster is constituted and how they've been trying to carry guys like Kevin Givens and others through injuries because they don't want to use the IR spot. Now, what they could do if they felt that this back is going to be an issue for Wisnowski, who hasn't punted primarily well this season, a lot of short distance, and it's probably because of the back. then you can potentially put Wisnowski on the shelf and maybe bring him back for the playoffs or Super Bowl. But your special teams has already been bad. What do you do now? So it's going to be a tough one. We'll see what the treatment looks like this week. But I think everyone should brace for a opportunity, or at least a thought process, that Mitch Wisnowski may end up going on the shelf for the remainder of the 2024 regular season. I think that is a likelihood, and that's unfortunate. But when you're dealing with a back injury, those things are hard. So we'll see. Wisnowski's a tough guy. We'll see if he can build through it and work through it. But I think that this is something to monitor as we go forward. Is Wisnowski might be out. Expect you hear that the 49ers are working out several punters. Remember, it was just a couple weeks ago they worked out a punter, and everyone was like, why are you working out punters? You're having all the problems with place kickers. What are you doing here? Well, they probably knew Wisnowski was dealing with the back. He's probably been working through it, and it's just progressively getting worse or not getting better. And so the 49ers may have to go somewhere there. So they'll be bringing in punters for workouts. Expect to hear that this week. And if they end up signing someone, they may just sign someone to the practice squad and elevate them. They can do that for 3 weeks. So maybe that is a way to go around it. But they've got other positions they need to elevate players for. So I don't know if they want to do that anymore. So that's going to be a little bit tough. Now, Nick Bosa, of course, was playing through the hip pointer. And I think it was noticeable that Nick Bosa didn't have the explosion, didn't have the get off, didn't have the same juice that he normally does. And it was definitely causing him to be more ineffective than normal, where normally he's putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Some of it was game plan by Tampa Bay. They did a good job getting rid of the football quickly. Some of it was injury. And so they did ask Kyle Shanahan about Nick Bosa, and he said he came out of the game all right. I'm sure it's sore and stuff. Anytime you miss most of the week of practice and everything, that's going to affect you. He battled hard throughout the game, and I thought he was real impressive there on those last 2 drives. The one getting the sack and a couple of run plays that he did there inside the 10, where I thought he did a good job too. So Kyle Shanahan kind of, building up Nick Bosa, of course, I'm sure because Bosa's taking the criticism because of the weird 4th down play where he's not able to get Baker Mayfield to the ground. In fact, he just kind of runs with him. Baker able to convert the throw for a 1st down. I think that really played into this, but Bosa's hip is definitely bad. We'll see. Hopefully another week of treatment. He heard it last Wednesday. Hopefully another week of treatment will help. I'm sure he got treatment today. He'll get treatment on Tuesday. Wednesday, I don't expect to see Nick Bosa at practice. Thursday, I don't expect to see Nick Bosa at practice. Both of those will be treatment days. I think Friday's walkthrough is the time where we see what is made for Nick Bosa. I do expect him to work through it and play, though, but it could be a little bit more difficult. Now, some optimistic news about the 49ers. Chris Conley, who missed the game with a hamstring injury, could potentially return this week. So that's good news coming from Kyle Shanahan that Chris Conley could be ready to go. And so that would help bolster the wide receiver room. And they did add Russell Gage last week to the practice squad as well. So we'll see. 49ers had Chris Conley. We know how good of a blocker he is. And so they definitely would love to have him back. And he's potentially going to return this season. Now, for defensive tackle Kevin Givens, who's been dealing with a groin injury, his status remains uncertain. And I think he's probably a big reason why they traded for Khalil Davis. Khalil Davis did not do a whole lot in this football game. They expect him to get worked more and more so in this game versus Seattle and as they move towards Green Bay and beyond for him to get worked into the rotation. But how about this? A game like that, and all of a sudden Khalil Davis played a lot better. So Khalil Davis filling the push of Khalil Davis getting traded for, and so he started playing a little bit better in this matchup. So we'll see. Kevin Givens is definitely missed. We are missing Kevin Givens, a part of that rotation, and so hopefully he can get back. But right now it doesn't seem like it's very likely this week. Now, cornerback Charvarius Ward may return this week as well, but the 49ers are giving him as much time as possible. Kyle Shanahan said, I think there's a chance for him to come back this week. I was talking to him over the weekend. I haven't got a chance to talk to him today. I'll probably do that sooner than later and see where he's at, but I've got no updates right now. So this is a thing where Charvarius Ward, of course, is given all the possible time that he wants. If he doesn't want to come back this week, there is nobody from the 49ers that is going to tell him he should come back this week. But I think Kyle Shanahan has discussed that he's had a conversation with Charvarius Ward, and Ward was thinking about potentially coming back this week. That was as of last week. He wants to double check with him. And if everything is going right, then Charvarius Ward will return to practice for Wednesday's practice, I would guess. And then he would be suited up and ready to go. And that would definitely bolster the cornerback room for the 49ers. And we know how important Charvarius Ward is when they play a team like Seattle, how well he plays against DK Metcalf. And we'll see what happens with DK, but they're coming off a bye. But they have 3 very talented wide receivers. You need all hands on deck for that divisional game, and he could potentially be back. Now, Kyle Shanahan did talk about Dre Greenlaw, and Dre Greenlaw practice window is not anticipated to be open this week. 49ers opened a lot of practice windows last week. They opened Christian McCaffrey. They opened John Feliciano. They opened Yetur Gross-Matos. One of those guys came back, and Christian McCaffrey. This week, we're starting to work closer to Gross-Matos and to Feliciano. Those are going to be must-watches this week. They could both possibly return. But for Dre Greenlaw, they're not going to open up the window yet. This does not surprise me. I expect this window to be opened up either next week or the following week after Green Bay, because I think the most likely outcome is for him to return either against Buffalo or against Chicago. So the last game of November or the first game of December seem to be the most likely for Dre Greenlaw to return. So a mixed bag of injury news for the San Francisco 49ers. The good news is no significant injuries beyond what we already knew, but we're going to have to watch George Kittle and Nick Bosa this week to see how they progress. Hopefully it's well. And then, of course, we're just going to continue to pray for Charvarius Ward. And whenever he's ready to come back, then he's going to come back. And so good news for the 49ers on the injury front for the most part. And we'll see what happens with more guys. Kind of got some attention to be paid towards special teams with Mitch Wisnowski. And so it's going to be interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe to the channel. If you think I deserve it, I really appreciate it. If you're listening to audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, I really appreciate everyone coming by. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.